Alright guys, so this lesson is on medicine and ethics. Last time we talked about medicine and law, and it was a very lengthy PowerPoint presentation and lecture for you guys. This time it's going to be much shorter, and it's about ethics. Now there is a difference between law and ethics, and we will discuss this throughout this chapter. So, as of course, we are always going to talk and hit upon our vocabulary words. We'll need to be able to do the following related to medicine and ethics. We need to define ethics and morals, identify the effect of personal morals and values on professional performance, differentiate between professional and personal ethics, recognize the effect personal ethics and morals have on the delivery of healthcare, develop a plan for separation of personal and professional ethics, and demonstrate appropriate responses to ethical issues. We'll also need to be able to discuss the history of ethics in medicine, and do the following related to making ethical decisions. And that's list and define 3 general elements of ethics, list and define the 4 types of ethical problems, and discuss the 5-step process used to making an ethical decision. We'll summarize the ethical opinions research by the CEJA, I apologize for that, which is the Council on Ethical and Judicial Affairs, and we'll describe the process of compliance reporting of conflicts of interest. So to get started today, we're going to talk about ethics, legal, ethical, and moral issues, but really we're going to focus on ethics in this one. So ethics are basically thoughts, judgments, and actions on issues that have implications of moral, right, or wrong. Okay? It is something that is legal is not necessarily ethical. So to be able to treat all types of patients ethically, you first must examine your own values, your own beliefs, and your own actions. So the CEJA, which we just discussed as the Council on Ethical and Judicial Affairs, the Ethical and Judicial Affairs, they define the relationship between law and ethics regarding healthcare as its ethical values and legal principles are usually closely related, but ethical obligations typically exceed legal duties. Okay, that is the difference between law and ethics. It's important that you guys know that. It is on your tar to know the difference between ethics and law. Okay, so we're going to move on to personal, professional, and organizational ethics. So medical assistants not only must have a strong knowledge base about ethical issues they might face throughout their careers, they also must come to terms with some of the deeply rooted value systems that have been a part of their lives since your youth. So all contribute to the way a medical assistant approaches the patient. Now that's personal, professional, and organizational ethics. They all contribute to the way that we approach the patient. You must not force your personal beliefs on the patient or their family members. Everybody is entitled to their own ethic or their own beliefs and opinions. You cannot force the way you feel onto somebody else. And organizations will offer ethical guidelines in the form of policies and procedures, and we'll talk about those throughout the entire book and the entire course here, about different types of policies and procedures that you might see at your clinic. But those are basically the ethical guidelines that your clinic has established for practice in your medical office. Personal ethics in the profession. Okay, so personal and professional ethics must be kept separate so patients can make their own decisions regarding their health care. They are the ones in control, guys. They are the ones that get to make the final decision. It is not professional and is not appropriate for you to put your ethical opinions into their treatments, okay? So professional organizations will offer ethical guidelines, though, and we will talk about a ton of those here coming up. Each medical assistant is required to maintain patient confidentiality, and that's just an ethical thing that we as medical assistants must do. So if you look on page 91 and 92 in the textbook, you'll see procedures 7.1 and 7.2, and they're really important to do. And I believe for your assignment for this unit, we are going to be working with procedure 7.1, and that's describing how to develop a plan for separating personal and professional ethics and how to recognize the impact of personal ethics and morals have on the delivery of healthcare. While procedure 7.2 on page 92 describes how to respond to issues of confidentiality. Both things are essential in the medical field, guys, so really take your time, look over those procedures, and figure it out, okay? We're going to talk about the history of ethics in medicine. And in order to move forward, we've got to know where we came from, right? So it's really important to know the history of ethics. So ethics are not etiquette. Now the difference between ethics and etiquette is etiquette refers to courtesy, customs, and manners, whereas ethics explores the moral right or wrong of an issue. So it's important to know the difference between the two. We talked before about etiquette in the workplace and professional behaviors and the way you should handle yourself, and therapeutic communication as well. So we've talked about etiquette, and later on we'll talk about telephone etiquette. But this chapter solely focuses on ethics, and ethics is the difference between moral right and wrong of an issue. Okay? So ethics started back by the Babylonians, and it came up with a code of Hammurabi. Now, the Code of Hammurabi, it elaborated on the conduct expected of a physician and even set the fees a physician could charge. So think about that. Back in the Babylonian age, doctors were still charging for these procedures and treatments. All right, and they were the ones that established that Code of Hammurabi. The Oath of Hippocrates came next, or which is now known as the Hippocratic Oath. It's just an easier way to say that there. And then there is a code of ethics, the Code of Medical Ethics, and that started back when Thomas Percival developed that Code of Medical Ethics and was interested in the study of how ethical concepts related to medicine. So Thomas Percival was kind of the one that originated that and really started to dig into figuring out exactly what it was. Then we get into some more associations here. We've talked a little bit about the AAMA, which is the Americans Associations of Medical Assistants. And they had written a medical assisting creed which can be used as a guideline for medical assistants facing complex ethical and moral work issues. But basically individuals are applying to or who have earned the CMA credential, which is your Certified Medical Assistant credential, which is the combination of clinical as well as administrative. So here we work on the CMAA, which is the Certified Medical Administrative Assistant. If you were to go on to college into a 2-year program, you could go to medical assisting school, which would be a combination of this material as well as the clinical material to get your CMA certification. But individuals who are applying to have earned the CMA credential are expected to follow the Code of Conduct for CMAs, which is put out by the AAMA. Now, you can find this Code of Conduct, and it's important that you guys look this up, and you should educate yourself on this, but you can find that Code of Conduct for CMAs on the AAMA website, which is, if you want to write it down right now, it's www.aama-ntl.org. And you can go on there and you can find that Code of Conduct for CMAs because you are a medical administrative assistant, so it's important to be up to date on that ethical Code of Conduct. When you are on your job, guys, you're going to have to make ethical decisions. All right? It's just the territory that we're given. We have to be able to make a decision about right or wrong. So this section enables the medical assistant to recognize the type of ethical problems that might arise in the physician's office and provides a pattern to follow in making ethical decisions. So in order to make ethical decisions, you have to understand the elements of ethics, which we've talked about a little bit. But we're going to talk about more here. We also have to understand the types of ethical problems that we'll face, and then we have to make good decisions. And that's basically forming opinions on issues that we will bring up and discuss here. So, the elements of ethics, and we talked earlier about duty, okay? And that duty is still the same thing. It's that agreement between the patient and the physician where you have something that you need to do now. That is what duty is. And then we have non-malfeasance and beneficence, okay? There is a difference between non-malfeasance and beneficence. If you're unsure of what they are, really look and dig into that. But basically, non-malfeasance means refraining from harming oneself or another person, while beneficence means bringing about good. So there is a difference between the two. Okay, you have fidelity and veracity. All right? And fidelity and veracity. Fidelity is the concept of keeping promises, where veracity is the duty of telling the truth. So there is, again, a difference between fidelity and veracity. And guys, if these are new terms for you, write them down, okay? That's why you guys have those handouts, and that's to take notes on things that I go over in the PowerPoints and in the lectures that are not in the written out for you. And then you have justice. And justice relates to fair distribution of benefits and burdens among individuals or groups in society having legitimate claims on those benefits. Okay? Reparations. When a person has wronged another, he or she has a duty to make reparations or to right the wrong. So you have to fix what you have done wrong. And then disposition, and basically character traits are a disposition to act a certain way. Okay, so those are the elements that make up ethics, guys. Now we'll talk about the types of ethical problems that you'll face in any career path that you choose, okay? So you'll have ethical distress. And ethical distress is a problem in which a certain course of action is indicated, but some other problem or barrier prevents that course of action. And then you'll have an ethical dilemma, okay? And an ethical dilemma is a situation in which an individual must make a decision about two or more acceptable choices. However, choosing one of those choices means that the person cannot follow through on the course of the action of the other. And then you have a dilemmas of justice. Okay, and dilemmas of justice is when a problem focuses on the fair distribution of benefits to those who are entitled to them. And then you have locus of authority issues. And in locus of authority issue, two or more authority figures have their own ideas about how to handle how a situation should be handled. So those are the different types of ethical problems. Now we need to get into the ethical decision-making process, guys. And the first step in making an ethical decision is to gather all the relevant information. So to gather information, a medical professional, you don't have to be a medical assistant, a medical professional should ask questions, they should review charts and talk to the patient and other professionals. And then you should search for other data so that the entire situation is available for scrutiny and you can really dig into that and really understand what's going on. Then you need to identify the type of ethical problem. And we just went back, if you went back one slide or look back in your handout, you can see all of those different types of ethical problems and then figure out which one it truly is. And then you need to determine the ethical approach to use. So in determining the ethical approach to use, we must consider the duties, rights, and characteristic traits of all those involved, paying attention to ramifications of all the possible decisions. And then you need to explore practical alternatives and complete the action, okay? Those entering the medical profession should take stock of the core beliefs, okay? So scan newspapers and search professional journals for ethical situations that arise. Think about the facts and then decide how you would react if you were faced with one of those situations. All right, guys, it's really important to just kind of prepare yourself for anything that you're going to face. Now, we're going to talk a bit about the Council of Ethical and Judicial Affairs, and we're going to dig into it and really get into what type of dilemmas you might see and common issues in the medical office. So the AMA, as we'll talk about here, AMA stands for American Medical Association. If I ever refer to it from here on out, that's what it means. And the CEJA stands for the Council on Ethical and Judicial Affairs. Okay, so basically the Council on Ethical and Judicial Affairs, the CEJA, they develop ethical policies for the AMA by analyzing and addressing ethical issues that confront physicians and the medical profession. Now the AMA Code of Ethics is 9 separate categories for ethical concerns. So the AMA Principles of Medical Ethics has been revised several times to take into account the developments in medicine, but the moral intent and overall idealism of these principles has not changed. So now we're going to start getting into the CEJA opinions, and they're going to give you basically opinions and their ethical thoughts on each of these situations. So the CEJ options on social policy issues. So the first one is going to be preventing, identifying, and treating violence or abuse. That is a dilemma that you will face in the medical office. So basically the complete opinions of the CEJA can be found in the textbooks. They start on page 95 in your text. Let me just flip here. And they go through 99. So there's 4 pages of opinions in the textbook. So like I said, preventing, identifying, and treating violence or abuse. The CEJA basically comes up and says that the law requires the physicians to report abuse. If they don't, it is a breach of ethical standards. So if you are opposed or faced with those dilemmas, okay, you think there's child abuse going on in the home, or maybe it's domestic violence or something along those lines, it is your duty, okay, to report that. The next one is HIV testing. CEJA states physicians should promote routine HIV screening for all patients, and providers must attempt to prevent HIV-positive individuals from infecting third parties. The next one is withholding or withdrawing life-prolonging treatment. The CEJA's opinion is The decision to withdraw life support should be made by any mention of organ donation. Sorry, let me start over, guys. The CEJ opinion on withholding and withdrawing life-prolonging treatment states basically that the decision to withdraw life support should be made before any mention of organ donation is made by the medical professionals tending to that patient, because you don't want to make it would be unethical to mention organ donation and then ask if they would like to withdraw from life support. That just doesn't ethically match up. The next one is organ donation, as a matter of fact, and organ donation is encouraged by the AMA. So it is ethical to donate organs, and it's actually, very beneficial to everybody involved. And then the allocation of health resources, and basically the criteria put out for the allocation of health resources is the urgency of need, the likelihood of benefit, the duration of that benefit, the amount of resources required for successful treatment, and the potential change for any quality of life. They also have opinions on confidentiality, advertising, and communications. And this is going on to page 96 and 97 there. So confidentiality is one of the cardinal rules of the medical profession. And that's the spot up right here. So basically, they have restrictions apply to information documented in the patient records. No matter what it is, any information you have on that patient, it has to remain confidential. HIPAA has established strict rules for patient confidentiality and disclosure of private health information, guys. Then they have advertising. Advertising and publicity must be true and not misleading. So if you're going to advertise about your medical profession and your medical office, it has to be true and it cannot be misleading to bring in more profit, guys. You have to really put out what is happening. And then publicity. So certain kinds of news are part of public records. The provider cannot discuss any patient's condition with the media without authorization from that patient or that patient's legal representative. So if somebody comes, even if they're famous, guys, and somebody comes and asks you what is going on with your patient, legally you're not allowed to say anything unless that person or that person's representative, legal representative, gives you the clarification that you can, clarification and authorization that you can talk to the media about that. And then this is going to be like the last one we're talking about, guys. It is the CEJA's opinion on practice matters. Okay, and this is more where we are going to be focusing ours on, is because this is the type of thing that we will see the most working as medical administrative assistants. So fees and charges. So charging or collecting an illegal or excessive fee is unethical. If you are hiking up your expenses or your charges to a patient because they can make the payment and you could use the money, but it is kind of more than you should be charging, that is unethical, guys, and that should not be done. Fee splitting and contingent fees. So payment by or to a physician solely for the referral of a patient is fee splitting and is unethical. Okay, so basically if another provider refers a patient to us and we pay them for that patient, that's unethical. Okay, that is very unethical. So the medical assistant is responsible for keeping informed about the current billing regulations and for seeing that these regulations be followed conscientiously. Providers may opt not to charge or may offer a reduced rate of care given other physicians, staff, or family members, and this is called professional courtesy, and professional courtesy is ethical. Okay. There is a waiver of insurance co-payments. They have an opinion on that, so read up on that. They have conflicts of interest. So the AMA recommends that physicians not meet with pharmaceutical or medical device sales representatives except by documented appointment and at the physician's expressed invitation. All right, because there could be some sort of conflict of interest going on there, and that could benefit. For example, say one of the medical office staff, say the medical office manager, her husband is a medical device salesperson, and they make commission for all the devices that they sell. Well, that could be an ethical dilemma on the medical office manager, because she obviously wants her husband to sell products to this office so that we make out with a better, more money in the long run, guys. And that is conflict of interest, and that is unethical. And then unethical conduct by members of the health profession. And before making a judgment about unethical conduct, medical assistants must be absolutely sure of all the information and in all the circumstances. So in all, guys, everything that we've talked about today, in order to make ethical decisions, you really have to have the whole story. You need to gather all the information. You need to analyze it, do your research, and then make your ethical decision. So, in closing comments here, medical developments affecting patient care. Now, basically, this is like becoming a member in a professional organization, because that provides access to continuing education for maintaining knowledge and skills pertaining to the performance of medical assisting. So you need to become involved in different committees. That way you can grow as a professional and you can develop your medical skills, and that will help in turn affect your patient care. Honest appraisal of beliefs. It says environment and upbringing and beliefs must be your own. So medical assistants should take a serious look at the thoughts and concepts that make up their own concepts of ethics. It is important to approach ethical decisions calmly, logically, and without haste. And then, of course, confidentiality. Confidentiality is always critical in the medical profession, and the patients must understand ethical standards, guys. So, last slide here. So, patient education and the legal and ethical issues. So, regardless of the situation, the medical assistant is bound by ethical standards to treat all patients with respect and to make ethical decisions based on the principles rather than their own personal beliefs and values. So patients may not always understand the ethical standards to which providers and medical assistants must adhere to. So take the time and educate them if they don't. The prime objective of the healthcare profession is to render service and to provide quality care to all individuals. Yeah, that is what we are ethically held to. And guys, that's it. Ethics is the difference between right or wrong. Look at page 95 through 99. Look at those ethical opinions put out by the CEJA, and really start to develop your own opinions on the matter, because you will, working in any sort of field, especially in the medical field, will be faced with ethical dilemmas and ethical situations. If you have any questions over this stuff, guys, feel free to ask me. Have fun with your assignment. Keep working hard. Keep it up.